afternoon, folks. Hope you're good. I've got something going wrong with the video there where hopefully that played for you, but it didn't for me. So hopefully you can hear me okay. If you're tuning in live, then as usual, always appreciate you saying hello and letting me know whether or not the technology is working. Me and our guest today, Jane Appleyard, have just been grappling with the audio a little bit. So we'd always really appreciate it if anyone can give us an indication as to whether it's working okay. But I'm Jack Chew. This is Chewing It Over. And on Mondays and Thursdays, or most of the time anyway, we chew it over. We discuss whatever's topical within MSK practice, healthcare in general, but also where that intersects with culture. And one of the ways in which our industry best intersects with culture, especially when it comes to the pursuit of healthcare fairness, improvement in inequalities, is in the realm of pelvic health, which we've been doing a bit more work on over the years. Friends of ours, Elaine Miller, Emma Brockwell, Grania Donnelly, and now Jane Appleyard. We've been really impressed with how that is a developing and improving sector that really we have all sorts of interesting challenges to face with regards to workforce access. And this lady that I'm speaking to today has come up with an absolutely brilliant platform that's going to help to bridge some of those gaps and improve some of those issues. And so we're going to discuss them at length today. So I've been really looking forward to this. It's long awaited. I'm really excited to tell you all about this because she's gone through a really interesting journey where, like the best solutions that are out there, it's something that's truly emergent from someone's expertise that's then applying it to solve a problem that is very real. And so I love those, and that's exactly the sort of thing that we want to proliferate. So hopefully in the click of a couple of buttons, if I can find the right buttons, I will bring you Jane Appleyard. Jane, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jack. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic, good. Well, that's been a bit of a frantic scramble to sort the audio out, but you're here now, and that's great. We've got a slight delay, so I've already apologized in case I end up interrupting you. I'm guilty of that anyway, but it's this time
that's
I
fine.
can blame the technology. Could you start off with just telling us a little bit about you and then how you ended up creating DIY Bladder, because that's going to be obviously this topic for today.
Yeah, well, I suppose, well, just the website, you need to be quite specific at what you type in. It's DIYbladder.DIY, and you'll finish it with offers from B&Q. So, okay. I mean, perhaps firstly, if I give a bit of background as to the scale of the problem and what was that I wanted to set up this self-assess, self-treat, one-stop program for women. I think it's huge. I mean, the scale of the problem is hundreds of thousands of women out there in the community struggling with bladder, and it's a real long-standing situation. I've been involved in this area. I was originally an MS tribe of kind of women's health or pelvic health physios, as we call ourselves. About 16 years ago, the scale of the problem then was enormous, and it's even worse now. Post-COVID redeployment was massive. Interestingly, the Royal College of Obstetricians a report in April this year called "Left Too Long," and again, you know, this women on a waiting list to see a gynecologist, which is it's huge, really. You know, women's health physios are pretty thin on the ground. So I suppose I was clinical lead for the Continence Advisory Service in Huddersfield, and I just decided that we would set up a patient kind of group advisory session. So women would have been triaged to come and see us, and we got together in a small group, do a one-off advisory group session, and then 4 weeks later, and hey presto, when these women came back 4 weeks later, they were significantly kind of really well on the road to recovery. So I think that was my kind of push. So it's been around heart that women can do a lot more for themselves than we give them credit for. And big drivers. So the statistics on one hand are just depressing, and on the other hand, for me, women are real experts in their own body. You know, it starts from we might not be able to label our intimate parts of our anatomy correctly, but feel. So when you lads are in the playground, messing around with Pokemon cards, there are young girls battling with that first box of tampons, trying to work their way around the instruction leaf there. And it's a really steep learning curve. And it carries on throughout our lives, really, when we've had a baby, if we get menopause. Women are quite in touch with their undercarriage. So I think, women are very good at Googling. So they kind of know something's not right. And they go on to, we're pros when it comes to Googling for healthcare issues. And there are some good sites, there's some good, but quite often it's kind of wrapped up in medical jargon, and it can be a bit dull, a bit inaccessible. And then the other thing that I have a really bee in my bonnet about gadgets, there are so many on the earth. Some look as if they double up as hair straighteners. There are so, and they're often expensive. They're often not really needed, and they're often not a pro. So it's a minefield, and there's an awful lot of money to be made from women's misery. Started off really a combination of all those things thrown together.
Yeah,
that led me to think
that a lot. Yeah, sorry, Jane. That's what I was saying about risk of me interrupting. I've heard that quite a lot, really, about how there's a lot of gadgets promising the world when fundamentally we know that rehabilitation and an expert assessment is going to be important to get people on the right track, and not then having these false hopes, because sometimes they give that a go and then they think they're doomed. Unfortunately, we're having some feedback here. Thank you, Alison, for this feedback. Unfortunately, we are struggling with your audio, Jane. Again, I know we've had a bit of a faff with it, so maybe try taking your headphones out and seeing if it's any better just on the raw microphone. That's probably our only shot of sorting it whilst live.
Right, can you hear me now?
We've still got a bit of a lag, but I can hear you fine with that, and hopefully that then improves it for others. Alison or anyone else that's watching live, if you can let me know if any better for Jane. But Jane, let's just, if I can throw a question to you on that before we get stuck into then what it is you've created. We know that there's a challenge where there's a need, but there isn't necessarily a workforce or an access plan for people to get that. And so you notice then group work or just anything that sort of meant that people had a touch point, that was better than, at the very least, better than nothing, but it can actually then still get positive outcomes. So from that, what did you then learn, and how did that become what you've created?
I think that from working in the NHS, and then we looked at the number of referrals that were coming through. A lot of the information that we gave women at their initial assessment was quite generic to everybody from it. So that was where the group advisory session came from. And then as part of, and I think a lot of continence services do that up and down the country, but as part of that, I actually test their own pelvic floor muscles. Now that's not commonly done, but easy for women to do. As I say, we are very in touch with our bodies. And then when these people, they had already been able to really engage with pelvic floor rehab. So, and when you look at what's available on the internet, everything is there's websites about pelvic floor, but it's not just about your pelvic floor. It's also lifestyle. So it's really wanting to create a one-stop shop. I just really felt that was something that was needed, rather than this disparity of information. For women, it's like a jigsaw. They go out, they can't work out which pieces apply to them. So I wanted to make something that was very straightforward, easy to understand, and empowered women to gather their own treatment and rehab program.
Superb. I'm really sorry, but I think one of the problems we're having, and this topic and this conversation, we've been working on this for a while, and the technology is just not suiting us today. Unfortunately, I don't think it's necessarily just an audio thing. There's something about the signal or something, Jane, that's just not working out for us. And so I don't want to end up just trying to butcher it and this be the thing that we put out there. So at the very least, if we can sort the technology, we'll have to put another date together. But what I can assure those that are watching on, or anyone else, we'll put an apology out later, is that if we need to, me and Jane will record the conversation in optimal circumstances that doesn't rely on us then streaming it live, which might be the thing that's sort of straining the bandwidth. And we will get this conversation out to you, more information about Jane and her work very soon. So I'm sorry, we probably are going to have to abandon the show this time, Jane. It's just I don't want to do it badly. We'd rather we've been patient so far, haven't we? So we might as well wait another few days or weeks. So we will get this together. Massive apologies for those that have tuned in, and again, these things sometimes happen with the tech gremlins. For those that are interested, we are also going to take Chewing It Over away from being a live stream, in part for these reasons, right? It's been happening more and more. And that is something that we can't do with, especially when you guys lend yourself to this and tune in and stuff. That has been a problem. We're going to therefore be recording it twice a week and then putting it out the day after with a light edit. And so we are trying to correct for this. It's not the first time this has happened. So Jane, I'm so sorry that this has happened, but we will sort it ASAP. Thank you again for those that have tuned in, especially Alison, for letting us know that it just wasn't functioning properly. I was starting to get some glitches, but it sounds like that's been amplified when it's been live streamed. So thank you all so much, and sorry again. Jane, we'll speak again soon. Okay, take care.